Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be doing a detailed discussion on tomorrow's storm risk, and it's quite a complex forecast, but the ceiling is fairly high with the risk for some pretty intense storms in places. So I'm going to be quick with this, but just to give you an idea of what areas are at risk, I'll show you my convective outlook, which I posted on Twitter this morning, and you can see that fairly large area is at risk for some storms tomorrow, all the way from the south coast into parts of Scotland, but the main zone currently is the enhanced level, so the enhanced risk level, which is across parts of the Midlands and Northern England. That's where I think the chance of storms is greatest currently, but other areas could see storms, and this could possibly get upgraded tomorrow to those moderate and high levels depending on the confidence tomorrow. But now you know kind of the rough areas, let's talk about the kind of general overview. This is the 850 HPA temperature chart, and this chart is pretty good for showing the air mass and the overall weather situation that we're in. And as you can see, this is valid for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. We've got a significant low pressure system out to the west of Ireland, and then you've got a plume of warm, moist air being pushed up from the continent into parts of England, Scotland, kind of brushing Northern Ireland there. And you can see the focus of this is across the kind of parts of southern and eastern England, but really anywhere in this plume it will be warm and it will be moist, and that leads to instability and that leads to thunderstorms. But usually now I'll start to talk about the environment that the storms have tomorrow, and then the kind of evolution and the forcing for storms. But the situation tomorrow is quite complex, so I'm going to kind of do a more chronological view, where I start first with looking at the weather models. And so this is the UKV model, and this is the forecast radar. As you can see here, these specs are showing where the model expects precipitation to be. But remember, this is just one solution and one model run, so it's kind of one possible scenario out of many scenarios. But you can see if I run this through, what it shows is by even the early morning, by 7-8 o'clock, you get thunderstorms moving through the channel, and then those start to kind of break out more widely across parts of England into well elevated but intense thunderstorms, which would likely be pretty active. And you can see that this model forecasts them to really be quite widespread all the way through parts of eastern England, southern England, and then that moves through that line. So that's the kind of risk area number one, which I'll start talking about now, which is the potential for a band of elevated storms. So you might be wondering what could be causing this band of storms to form. That's always an important thing to look at, and you can see that by the early morning, but this is by midnight, on the surface pressure chart from the Met Office, you can see you've got this black line across parts of western France, and that's a surface trough, and that's an area of slightly lower pressure, and that's typically you can get storms to form there because it's kind of a disturbance in the flow, the air rises and you get those storms forming. And I want you to watch where that goes by midnight, and you can see it actually gets bigger and it extends kind of in that direction. My arrow is not very good there, but you can see it moves into parts of southern England by midday, and so that is the potential first area where storms could form. And if I show you some charts here to kind of explain something, you can see this is the instability, and instability is important for storms to have lightning and have strength. And you can see that for Saturday morning, you kind of have a band of instability showing up, stretching into southern England, which lines up nicely ahead of that cold front. And if I take a sounding, which I'll explain here, you can see that we actually have fairly strong values of elevated instability looking to be in place across parts of eastern England by tomorrow during the early morning. And if I actually choose a different chart as well, just to kind of show you a bit better how those storms are going to form over the channel, you can see, yeah, that's much better now. You can see that band of instability that I was talking about, likely ahead of that surface trough, which basically means that you're going to have a mechanism for storms to form, which is that trough. And then also, as this kind of looks very complicated and messy, but this area between this dashed white line and that red line is representing our elevated instability, and it's elevated because there's no instability at the surface, because you can see it's cool there, that white line stops, but above a certain height you can see that we've got that difference in between the white line and the red line, which shows our elevated instability. I hope that explanation made sense. Which basically means the inflow of the storm will be above the surface. It will be, looks like it will be about kind of above 1 kilometer there. You can see that's where the inflow of the storm is going to be. But it looks like we're going to have that elevated instability for storms to start to fire along this black line, this trough here, during the mid to early morning, and then that will move northeast during the afternoon. So actually, to me, this model, kind of UKV model forecasting that line of storms, does make sense, because a couple of other models were showing, for example, the Arrow model, which is typically a fairly reliable model, was showing actually nothing, or pretty much, tomorrow morning. But really, if you think about it, if you've got forcing like a surface trough there and you've got instability, it just doesn't really make much sense, at least to me, that storms won't develop. And if I show you some potential, what that potentially could look like, because I already showed you the UKV. Now the timing is a little uncertain, like I mentioned, but you could potentially be seeing a band of storms erupting either over the Channel or over parts of England, like this, Eastern England, during the mid to late morning. Potentially would look something like that. During the mid to late morning, storms across more southern areas, and that's going to be a risk number 1. And as you get that outflow starting to develop, and you've got the strong forcing from that trough potentially becoming pretty widespread, like the UKV model suggests. So that's pretty much area number 1. Likely to see a line of storms start to form across the south and then becoming more widespread. And then a few kind of different scenarios start to kind of emerge from that point. And there's lots of uncertainty here. But then 2 things could possibly happen regarding area number 1. So one thing that could happen is that those storms, they move away during the afternoon and nothing else forms because there's no instability left across Eastern England, which is what the UKV model shows, as you can see there. But some other models, for example the ECMWF, which I was just talking about, if I show you the forecast instability, you can see that this shows much stronger instability across Eastern England. And if I take a forecast sounding, you can see there's a significant difference. Let me just clear that, sorry. Significant difference between the red and the white zone, which shows there is significant cape here. And also, if you take a look at this wind profile, there is some strong enough wind shear, which basically means a difference in the wind strength and direction at certain heights, for organised storms and perhaps even supercells with the risk of hail. So that's one possible scenario there, where you do get instability, but like I just mentioned, some models show pretty much no instability and no more storms across Eastern England. So that's a pretty big uncertainty. But if we take a look at some more models here, you can see this one doesn't show much in the way of storms after that main band passes through, but also it's potentially showing a slightly slower arrival of that line of thunderstorms, more around kind of 2-3 p.m. than the UKV, which showed it more in the early to mid-morning. As you can see there, that's more like 11 o'clock. So potentially that band of thunderstorms slows down and you get surface-based storms which turn into supercells across Eastern England, or that just moves through relatively quickly. But either way, there is a fairly significant chance for storms across Eastern England tomorrow. The main uncertainty is in timing and how many rounds of storms you get, and also the type of storms, because you could be seeing, if this were to come true, you could be seeing supercells with very severe hail, or if this were to come true, you could be seeing more torrential rain and lightning, that kind of thing. Now area number 2, which we have more confidence on, is pretty much, I'll explain it now. Once that band of storms kind of moves to the east, you're going to get the sunshine starting to move in across parts of Wales, the West Midlands and Southern England, and that allows instability to redevelop across parts of the West Midlands here, and it looks like you're going to get another round of storms forming and potentially becoming quite organised, as you can see there, quite heavy rain rates, quite organised band. So that's another kind of area to look at, if I show you the environment there, you can see similarly it's also quite significant. You've got a large area in between the white dashed line and the red line, which shows significant instability, and you can also see you've got a fairly straight hodograph, which is this bit here, which shows fairly strong wind shear, around 30 knots of effective shear, and kind of 40 knots of cloud layer shear, which should be enough just about for the risk for supercells, which could contain large hail, strong winds. And so really some of these storms could be quite severe across parts of the West Midlands tomorrow. And if I show you another forecast scenario just to get a better idea, you can see that moving this through the Arone model, unlike the morning storms, which is kind of showing a lot less of, still something there but less significant, this is much more confident on having a band of more organised storms move through parts of Wales and northwest England, as you can see there, with some significant instability. So as I was talking about, a fairly kind of complex scenario is in play for tomorrow. Two main kind of modes of severe weather, thunderstorms, both of which could be severe with kind of large hail, strong winds, but there is uncertainty, especially with scenario number 1, or kind of area number 1, which is across eastern England there. But I'll have my updated storm forecast tomorrow, and I hope this video kind of helped explain some of the kind of uncertainties for tomorrow. But if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like the video, and have a great day, well guys. Bye.